everybody, it's me, Laura, the Eggcentric Egg Lady, and today we're going to be doing my Hope egg design in color. And I'm really excited about this one. I've been wanting to do these eggs for a while, where I start combining all of my different techniques together. So right here, of course, I'm going to start out with my pencil and my egg that's already been prepped. So I have the base on here. It has been cleaned out, so it's been bleached, and I don't have to worry about that part, which is really nice. And in this case, you really have to. I'm bringing in my pencils here. I'm going to be doing that. And if I'm bringing in pencil and varnish and everything else, you have to have a cleaned out egg. So that's what you got to do right away before we even start. Anyways, right here, I'm bringing in my pencil. I'm creating that oval part on my horizontal surface here, and I'm going to create a small little second ring in pencil around this as well. Now, yes, again, I should be wearing my glove. And I didn't even mention that it should have been in the little materials too. Oh well, just chalk that up to what it is, right? I should be wearing my glove. I'm not. But I'm only handling it on the one side anyway, so I'm not really touching the graphite too much. Anyways, like I said, if you can wear a glove, it really does make a difference. Okay, so at this point, I do want to start mentioning a little bit about fonts. And I have at least one book that's on hand lettering, and it really, if you were to buy a book on that or look up some fonts, even calligraphy or whatever, and just practicing how to draw, or, well, really, in a way, drawing fonts, drawing words, it really makes a difference on these things going down, especially into Eggshell. If you wanted to be able to go ahead and start writing or drawing words, this is a great way to do it. Go and look for some books on that sort of thing, on, creating your own handwritten fonts, or, coming up with your own. But practice your handwriting. Go in there and practice. I know many of you are like, oh no, I got to go back to cursive. But think of it as drawing, because really in a lot of ways it is. Okay, so we're going to start bringing in our Derwent Inktense Pencils, and I'm going to be using today my Apple Green, which is 1400, the Teal Green, which is a 1300, and my Ink Black, which is a 2200. And that's all we're going to use. We're just going to keep it right to those three colors. Now, if you have not bought Derwent Inktense before, this is a nice introductory kind of video for this sort of thing, because I'm only giving you three colors to play with. And you could try them out and see if you really like them or if you don't like them at all. Notice here too, I brought in, when it comes to the Inktense, I do this first before I bring in anything else. I like to put my color into a corner. You kind of notice that here, especially I put the dark part right into the corner on my H, and then I bring it up. And if I think I've got too much on there, I used my eraser. You might have noticed it took some of the pigment out, which kind of helped me a little bit. Keep that in mind. Even when it's not quite dry, your eraser can be your friend on your pencil. So yeah. Anyways, I'm just blending this up, and I like to mention here when it comes to doing these blends and stuff, and even bringing the pigment into these larger areas, I like to thin out my Inktense area on the middle and then put more of the pigment towards the edge of whatever the section is that I'm coloring in. There's something about it, it gives it a really nice look, and I just love that. So keep that in mind as just a thought as to, well, how do I color this? That might help you. Now, I noticed here when I was starting to do my P on my hope that there was a certain point where I felt like I was going outside the lines, which is something I just generally like to do in general. But oh well. Anyway, I kind of went outside the lines, especially around in the circular part of the P. And when I did that, I was like, oh darn, I shouldn't have done that. But the more I thought about it, you can see right there, the pigment, I was like, oh, and then of course I blended it up and it was just a little bit too big. Here's the thing though, I'm going to be going back in with my marker, so it's going to cover over any really, really rough areas. So if you're really worried about going outside the lines, don't worry too much, because you are going to be going over some of these areas with your marker, and that's all going to go away. Okay, now that we got the green in, we're going to start bringing in that ink black. And this ink black, I kind of like to use it in a way as a gray wash. Yes, I have a nice kind of really intense line here around the edge. That's okay, because when I bring in my brush, I'm going to take all that pigment around the edge and I'm going to draw it into the center of that oval. And it's just going to fill in really nice with a nice wash. It's going to be like, oh, that's kind of cool. It works great. So don't worry about that. And I'll even go back in even after I've done this, and I'll add in a little bit more intense of, get it, intense, oh, intense, inked, sorry, Inktense. The ink black here on that edge. Sorry about that. It just, oh man, me and my words, right? Anyways, I'm just pulling in this ink black into the center part of the egg. Once I have this in there, like I said, I'll leave, actually I'll leave a little bit of this pigment up around the edge of where I have this here, but I'm going to come in with some more because I want to make sure it's a nice dark, kind of a black to a dark, and then to a lighter kind of thing into the center of this oval. It's really going to make a nice dynamic between this and the rest of the egg where I will not have any pigment at all. Also, the nice thing about having that black edge, and this is what I've been finding, this gives me a little bit of practice to make a really nice line, okay, using my pigment right around in that oval. So if I'm struggling with trying to figure out or define where my line is, this black will help that along with the paintbrush. It will give you like an idea of like, okay, this is where I've got my line, this is where it's going to be, and then defining it up with my ink black. Now, when I'm thinking about this, yes, you are going to go in around this same edge, and yes, you are going to be using your Sharpie marker, but having that ink black in there inside that oval, right? It's going to not only give you, yes, it's going to give you a dark black line just like your Sharpie, but the Sharpie will not give you variations of that black when you go to add water to it. This will give you a nice wash right across that whole oval area, and it'll look like it's all in its own little room, if you will, when you're putting this together. All right, now we're bringing in our Sharpie marker, and here is where we start adding in the real details to this egg. So where you had all of your graphic lines, or graphite lines, I should say, you're going to go ahead and trace over that with this marker. Now use short line. Don't use real long strokes with your pen, okay? Because if you get wiggly and it's like, oh no, that wasn't intended. Yeah. Make sure you use short lines. Now for me, sometimes I'll go a little bit longer on my line than I probably should, but I've been doing this a while. Okay, if you're not real good with your pen or even a pencil, use short lines to connect up to your next line. And the nice thing is too, is when you do that, most of the time it will connect up perfectly and it'll look like you had drawn it all in one stroke, when really in reality you had just drawn tinier little lines and then added in a little bit of your black marker to connect it all up. Okay, so I'm bringing my pencil back in and I'm adding in the words, "You dance," okay? Kind of after that song. I love that song. Oh my goodness. Anyways, I'm gonna then trace over this with my marker. Now, notice I'm off a little bit. You can come in probably with your eraser and very gently take out those graphite lines, and if you can, do so. Absolutely do so. You might even just go ahead and do it anyway, and then this way then you could just add a little bit more of that Inktense pencil and fill it in again. Now right here again I'm bringing in that secondary line, and I'm going to build, I want to say even off of that, one more graphic line, or I should say graphite line, because I'm going to go ahead and do my black and white checker with my marker. Okay, something I want to mention here. Notice I didn't get any kind of marker down. Check your Sharpie marker to make sure it's inking upright. So use a separate little piece of paper to make sure it's moving. Sometimes that doesn't, it doesn't happen. And instead of guessing and like, oh no, it's not coming out right, make sure your Sharpie marker is working really well. Now notice here, again, I'm bringing in short lines. I will go ahead and I will connect these up. And if they don't connect up like absolutely perfect, here's a little hint, and this is something I do a lot. I will make a little tiny circle in between the two lines that are not connecting upright. And this way then it looks like it was meant to be. I can't describe it. I've done this many times. Sometimes I get it okay just like I did there, but there will be times then, oh, guess what? It's not working. So I'll make a little circle in there instead. Okay, so one of my favorite little tools is the Posca marker. And this is an acrylic paint based marker. This is, I want to say, the 0.7, the smallest little tiny detail type Posca they have, right? And they have them in all the different colors. I mean, whatever colors they have in the Posca marker, you know, they have them all in this particular size. But the one that I use a lot, almost all the time, is my white. Holy cow, do I use my white. And a lot of it is for doing little bits of pointillism, or, you know, around in my oval here, or as I did here in the word hope. Now you might notice here that I've started using my glove, and that is, you know, really in a way, I got away with it at the first part because I was only handling the one side and I wasn't really touching the pencil or the ink or anything in that area. But now that I'm moving around to the back side, yes, I am wearing my glove. And I'm just drawing in some curls here. I'm just going to have some fun. I'm going to add in my Inktense once more, add in a little bit of that marker, add in a little bit of Posca, and we'll have a nice little design tied in to the front of our eggshell. Okay, now we're going to start adding in my water-based varnish, and we're going to cover the entirety of this egg with the exception of the base. All right, so when I do this, I take a little bit on my brush, as little as possible. I have probably even a little bit too much here. I like to dip in, scrape off, dip in, scrape. No, take a little bit, put that over the shell, just, put one swipe over it. Then move over to the next section where, right next to it, where it has not been swiped with varnish, put down another swipe. And I do this over the entirety of the shell. In other words, I don't go over it twice, I go over it once. Once and done, as I call it. You swipe it once with varnish, move on. Swipe it once again on another section, move on. You do not swipe over and over and over in one area. If you do that, you're going to have troubles with this egg. This is watercolor pencil, so it's going to run naturally, and it's a water-based varnish. What do you expect? But if you use a small amount of varnish, you swipe it once with just a very small amount, it's going to dry pretty fast, and then you could swipe over it again, and then it'll be cured, if you will, okay? You won't have to worry about it. So make sure you go where you swipe one and done, moving on to the next section, and so forth. Once you have that done and this thing is completely dry, I'm coming in here and I'm using my high-speed drill, but you can also use a low speed too. You just have to make sure that, especially with the low speed, and I always think my Dremel, you're going to have to really control that hand piece because there's a lot of vibration in it. But it can be done. And especially when you're only doing a small amount of holes like I am with this design, you're not going to have a whole lot of, the breakage will be at a minimal, if at all, okay? And that's only because I'm doing small, tiny holes. The tinier that little hole and the less, carving all with a bunch of design right together, the less likely it's going to bust out. Okay, now that I've got my drilling almost done here, once I have that done, I'm going to come in and I'm going to use a little bit of super glue and I'm going to put the little tiny hanger on the top of this egg. So now it will be fit for hanging. All right, so this is the end result of my Hope egg design in color. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, please like, subscribe, and leave me a comment. I'm always wondering what you're thinking. Otherwise, I am sending out my biggest hugs to each and every one of you, and I hope you have a fantastic day.